So
I would think that would be more professional buying, wouldn't you?
well, they're very hard to get, but even the 66 Saints, they're up $100 from a month ago. So, but that's where those, when you look at the 65 Liberty, I mean, the peak is 15,000. So when you compare a 5,000 coin today to where it can go, 15,000, that's a very good buy. So, same way with the 66.
And those premiums will come back once the public really gets involved. And, the dealers will push them because most of them charge higher commissions than they should. And
I mean, I had a customer who wanted to buy 20 of those 65 Liberties, and they're not there. That's why the premiums go up, because they're not there to be had, and people want them. So.
No, I like the 64 Saints, so there you go.
Yep, they are a good one. A very good one.
But anyway, we saw lots of stuff this weekend. We saw Chrysler, and they changed the rules on this Chrysler bankruptcy by the minute. The same thing with GM. First of all, they should have never been saved. And, of course, people say, well, if they're going to bail out the banks and the insurance companies and Wall Street, they should bail out GM and Chrysler. And with that kind of thinking, you can't disagree. On the other hand, they should have never bailed out the banks, Wall Street, and the insurance companies. They should have let them go under. Sure, it wreaked havoc with our system, and it would, be dreadfully difficult to get things done. But look, government is not supposed to be doing that. And so now they went and they bailed out, they're in the process of bailing out GM and Chrysler, who are doomed. They're doomed. The 46,000 over at GM will be out of work in 2 or 3 years. Why? Because these people behind the scenes in New York and Washington think by printing money endlessly that they're going to force the economy to work, and it's not going to happen. And if they come out of bankruptcy 2 months from now from Chrysler, and by the end of December by GM, and I think GM is going to be driven into bankruptcy. If that happens, they'll make it for a year, year and a half, and it won't be through business. It'll be because they'll have to continue to be subsidized, because they can't make it. I mean, look at automobile sales worldwide, off an average of maybe 35%. I mean, even in places, I think the only place I've seen an increase is in China. And it's understandable, very few people have cars in China. But Japan sales are down, 56%. And, in Spain, they're down 46%, and on and on. And so, you got to look at the economy. I don't think the economy is going to recover. I think we'll have, and I talked about this in the last 2 programs, and I'm going to do it again. Stimulus will last from this month, this year, until, at best, August. And all of the good will be dissipated. The money and credit that's being injected into the system will help. Now, what does that mean? Last quarter of last year, minus 6.3 GDP. First quarter, minus 6.1. This quarter, the second quarter, I'm guessing at minus 5, if they're lucky. The market, the economy's not improving. It's just stopped being as dreadful as it was. And that's understandable. Nothing goes straight down. And the next 2 quarters, maybe minus 4, if they're lucky. But it'll be 4 or 5, somewhere in there. Next year, when the stimulus comes in, in a bigger way because of the election year. Between February and August, September, you'll see a little revival, and the GDP will be flat. And that's it. And if they want to make it better from there by using money and credit, what they're going to have to do is spend another. Now, they're on the hook now for $12.8 trillion. They'll have to spend another $12.8 trillion or more to keep the economy from being taken over by deflation, which is there and working and eating at the foundations of business, real estate, etc. And so that's the way I see it. And then in the meantime, if Congress won't or can't give that kind of money after the next election, which is about a year and 6 months away, we'll say, 18 months away. If the Congress won't cough up another $12.8 trillion, then what the Fed will do is tell the banks to take the money that they have on deposit with the Fed that they're making 1% net interest on and go and start lending that money if people will borrow it. And that will be monetization of a couple of $1 trillion. In the meantime, what's going on is that the Treasury has to raise money. Unemployment's over 19%. Revenues are steeply falling. So what has to happen, because the Treasury doesn't have the money it needs to meet its commitments, they've admitted to a shortfall of about $1.8 trillion. The figures I'm looking at, they're looking at $2.5 trillion. So coming to the rescue for the first three, well, they're doing the mortgages too. So the Fed is spending about $1.2 trillion right now buying Treasury paper, and out of the market they're buying all of these worthless, toxic assets. Now, that is immediate inflation. So here we've got an economy that's not going anywhere, probably a temporary bottom, a little bit better than it's been for about 18 months. After that, Katie barred the door. Now, during that period of time, there's going to be heightening inflation in spite of what's going on. And that's because of the creation of money and credit. And that, in turn, will inhibit the stock market from going higher. And that means it should correct and go back down to 6,600 prior to the end of this year on the Dow. And so that's the way I see the immediate future. Now, we saw the phony swine flu epidemic that never happened. And this was put together to get people ready for inoculations and to federalize the police and to do the small things that will end up being martial law. I mean, I saw pictures at the Kentucky Derby. They've got Army men there in fatigues carrying sidearms. You got to be kidding me. I've never been to a racetrack where I saw any kind of person with a gun, except the payroll crew when it comes in, or when they take the receipts out, and that's it. And they're usually private, and they belong to a company that's been hired to do that. Now, they don't have people waltzing around racetracks with sidearms. And I have a picture of it. I couldn't believe it. But anyway, that's what that was all about. Now, the next step is they're going to expand conflict from Afghanistan into Pakistan. They They asked for $400 million today. Gates did, and said it's a terrible situation, blah, blah, blah. And that's the war, the extension of the war. They'll move in troops once they get 400,000 or 500,000 there in Afghanistan, and they'll go in. Next, once they've got that solidified, Israel will attack Iran. And these are all diversionary movements to keep your eye off the ball so you won't be thinking about, my goodness gracious,